The Correctional Association of New York estimates that 7% of the state's 75,000 prison convicts are clinically insane, and that 1/4 of the local jail inmates are also clinically insane. Where has the system failed us and why? With us are Patricia Cliff from the New York chapter of NAMI, the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, and Attorney Jeffrey Shapiro from Jeffrey Shapiro and Associates here in Manhattan. Welcome. Jeffrey, somebody gets out of an institution, is released, kills somebody, and then goes to trial and tries to prove, I'm not guilty by reason of insanity. What is the standard that's used?
The standard in a criminal trial for a defense based on insanity is that the person would have to show that they lack the substantial capacity to appreciate the consequences of their act, or B, that they lack substantial capacity to understand that their acts were wrong. So the example would be if a person, for example, were to push someone in front of a subway train, A, they would have to show that they didn't understand that the consequence was that the person could be hurt or killed, or B, that they did not appreciate that that was a crime or wrong.
Now, this goes back 100 years. It's called
Yes.
the McNaught Rule.
Right.
I want to ask you, Jeffrey, about the strange case of Dr. Myron Lipson. He's got psychiatrists nervous all over the country. At Chapel Hill, South Carolina, or North Carolina, wherever Chapel Hill is, there was a student by the name of Wendell Williamson. Wendell Williamson went to see Dr. Lipson. He had all sorts of troubles, went to him about half a dozen times and said he's going home. He doesn't know if he's going to come back or not. Dr. Lipson said, you know, I'm going to retire too myself, so I'll tell you what you do, Wendell. If you decide to stay home, go visit a local mental health facility and they'll pick up the treatment. And if you come back here, see our office again. What do you think happens? Wendell goes home, murders 2 people, and wounds a 3rd. And a lawsuit ensues. But the lawsuit that ensues is not from the victims, is from Wendell suing the doctor and the institution. And stranger yet, he recovers $500,000. Now, what do you say about that? And that has some ramifications, doesn't it?
Well, it has so many ramifications, it's hard to even think of all of them. But the real issue here is, what do doctors do, particularly psychiatrists, when they're faced with a patient who poses a risk either to himself or to others? What are they supposed to do? And the way this manifests itself is that a psychiatrist has a patient who is expressing suicidal ideations, he's going to kill himself, or he's saying he's going to go kill somebody else. Is it enough for the psychiatrist to simply say, well, I think you should seek further help, or does the psychiatrist have to take the next step, which is to make sure that he gets it and that he's institutionalized?
Well, you know, the peculiar thing is, in custody cases, psychiatrists get very smart now. They don't make a lot of notes, because they know if to make a lot of notes, the notes are going to be subpoenaed. Now, given the Lipson case and things such as you're saying, they're going to have to make lots and lots of notes. Defensive medicine, like you see in other fields.
Because, well, quite honestly, interestingly, the standard in terms of whether a hospital or a psychiatrist is responsible is whether they have to establish that they exercise reasonable judgment in discharging such a patient. If they don't have any notes, if they have no records to point to show how they reached this decision, that would be the basis of finding them responsible. But you've even got another problem, which is, where does the patient doctor privilege begin and end? At what point does the doctor, faced with a dangerous person, have to go beyond and expose privacies that have been told to him by a patient?
I'd like to thank my guest, Patricia Cliff from NAMI, and attorney Jeffrey Shapiro. Will we return? Controversial former Clinton political guru Dick Morris. If you have questions about the upcoming political races, phone us toll-free at 1-877-674-METRO.